What a waste of time. I just realized that I can't even do this thing because it will hit the mic. Smith machine shoulder press doesn't work because it legit just hits the mic. So I just set this up for no reason. Also, yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Didn't even say anything today. Alright, it's working a tiny bit now. I just have to move it a bit back. Okay, probably gonna lower the weight of that shrink soon. Oh yeah, so yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. So, sorry. What actually happened was that the camera didn't, Deep Blue didn't even record the entire cardio session. Yeah, it didn't even record it. I swear I pressed record and I checked it, and it looked like it was running, but then it crashed. So there's not even any footage of me doing a cardio section. But the thing is that we didn't even talk during the cardio at all. So it's like nothing happened. We didn't talk during that thing either. So yeah, but that's still 10 kgs each. So yeah, today's plans are actually yes. We'll talk about yesterday. Yesterday's plans was pretty simple. Just basically did the normal routine, did the story video, and then I spent like 2 hours on horror game, nearly 3 or 4 hours on Overwatch, and then we did like 1 to 2 hours of Minecraft. Well, we're kind of done with Minecraft to be honest. I think it's pretty obvious from yesterday's stream. So today's stream is going to be Ark Survival. It's probably going to have to do a story video today as well. Finish off that video of strangers. Now, that wasn't too bad, the Smith machine. You just had to adjust it properly. Also, if you're wondering why we didn't use the usual shoulder press, it's because there was too many golden hours around. Too many. But now it's all gone, so it's fine. There was just like 3 people on the treadmill behind this machine. No, and the other is right there. Yeah, I think just recently, like this entire week, there's just nothing to really talk about. So we've just been doing story videos, no topics. I mean, I'm sure yesterday we had like one topic, but the story video will override it just to create a. I mean, no, the metadata will still get me, but whatever is what it is. As for today, there's nothing to say. I mean, now it's just kind of normal routine. I think I'll spend more time setting things up rather than doing anything else. Yeah, there's nothing else to talk about today. Bro, I'm December I just came off the moment I spoke. Right, appreciate it, guys. Samberry is still just gone, but I'm not gonna bother waiting for it anymore. See you guys in the next segment.
Yo, what's up, guys? This is like, I think the 5th or 4th day in a row since I've done story videos, huh? It's just been nothing to talk about in the gym lately. Plus, we're like a bit sleepy. So today I'm planning to maybe sleep earlier. We'll see how it goes. As you can tell, your boy's already showered. Today is just gonna be inside all day because, like, where am I supposed to go? It's cold outside. You know what I mean? Alright, anyways, lock in. Gonna finish the story. The let's read. We did the first story was... What was the first story about again? Damn, I can't even remember. The first story... I don't even remember the first story. Second story was the disturbing one, right? I think the first story is, if I quickly look at the thumbnail... The thumbnail was... Ah. Yeah, it was like the homeless hippie camp, right? With the neighbors and stuff. Yeah. Alright, let's begin. Lock in.
North London. And although a lot of people assumed otherwise, I actually really enjoyed my job. I was doing a PhD at the time, and I've been struggling with the work and study balance for literally years when an opportunity suddenly fell into my lap. The landlady was over-collecting the rent, and she was lovely, so we'd always share a cup of tea and have a chat whenever she popped over. And then when she mentioned being hard up for a cleaner because her current one had just gone on maternity leave, I just blurted out, "I'll do it." Now, I was only half joking because I hated the waitress job that I had at the time, but when I found out what she was paying, it went from a semi-serious offer to a very serious one. Then cut to about 3 months later, and I was doing my landlady's house and her neighbor's place twice a week each. The pay was great, the hours really suited me, and both houses were really nice places near Regent's Park. And then couple all that with how much I enjoyed cleaning. I know, I'm weird. And it was a lovely way to earn a few quid in the mornings while freeing up my afternoons and evenings to study.
Hey, that sounds not bad. Playing as a... Not playing, but having a maid as a side job. Side hustle. I mean, it depends on the context of, like, the house, right? Obviously.
Now, for the first time in a long time, I was truly content in life. That is, until the universe decided to put me in the wrong place at the wrong time and change everything for me. I just finished washing the kids' clothes at the neighbor's place when I suddenly heard the doorbell. You get the odd cold caller sometimes, but on the off chance it was important, I still felt that I had to answer the door and see who it was. And so with a big sigh, I made my way downstairs, walked along the hallway, then opened up the front door. In front of me was a man wearing gloves, a woolly hat, and a black snood covering his neck and chin. But since it was the middle of a brutally cold winter that didn't seem in the least bit out of the ordinary, he was also carrying a clipboard and pen which, to naive mid-20s me, made him look very official. And then with a smile and a cheerful voice he said, "Morning, love. Just come to read the meter." I don't actually know how it works in America, but here we have meters in our houses someone comes to read, and that's how our gas and electricity bills are calculated, at least in the age before smart meters anyway. And the only thing was, my landlady's neighbor hadn't mentioned anything about someone popping over, and if someone was due to pop around for any reason, she always left a note on the kitchen table to let me know. She did it for deliveries that were due, workmen coming to measure something for remodeling, even friends dropping things off so I didn't get worried about strangers appearing at the door. Utilities companies almost always send a letter saying a reading is due, something I knew from experience, so the fact that the neighbor hadn't mentioned anything had me feeling less than comfortable with letting a total stranger into their house.
Okay, in the story, don't let him in then. In the story, don't let him in. Done. Your landlady already prepared everything, so...
I told the man that I was just the cleaner, but that the homeowner hadn't mentioned anything about a meter reading due that morning. The man replied that it had probably just slipped her mind, and since it'd take less than a minute to get the reading, there was no harm in me letting him in so he could...
Oh my goodness, don't let him in. What? Yo, if this woman lets her in. Nah.
get it done.
No way.
And I thought that was a fair point, just not enough for me to feel totally comfortable letting him inside, so I asked if I could see some identification of some kind. The guy stayed really friendly as he told me he did have his ID card, he just left it in his van. And he also seemed to think that it'd be an acceptable answer for some reason, when in reality, that only bolstered my suspicions. Now, there was this sort of awkward standoff for a few seconds, as he expected me to just step aside and say, "Oh, go on then, it'll only be a minute." But instead, I stood there in silence expecting him to be the one to move, to go and get his bloody ID card out of his van. He broke the—
Yo, close the door. Have the door chain lock. Bro, he can bust in with... He could just bust in. You need that door chain lock. Man.
silence by saying, "Do you really want me to go get it? I'm parked all the way around the corner."
Yeah, go get it.
To which I told him yes, I would like him to go and get it. And that's the moment his face dropped. He realized that happy, smiley, cockney facade was doing nothing for him, and so he dropped it as I started to close the door. I should have slammed it, loud and quick, I know that now, but still maintaining that ridiculous air of British politeness, I tried closing it slowly and softly,
And he
which,
puts his foot in the...
as you can probably guess, was a big mistake.
He puts his foot in the thing. GG.
I'd almost gotten it closed when a powerful impact forced it back. It was a really big, thick oak door too, so after sending what I imagined was his foot into it, it came back at me so hard that I had to sort of jump back out of the way so it didn't trap me behind it as it flung open.
That's why you need the door chain locks or deadbolts when you answer doors. Especially if you're a female. Alone. Dude, that you don't just open doors like that. You need to leave a gap. You need to leave a gap. No. You need like a deadbolt and a door chain lock. But look, I mean, if they're strong enough, they'll still break in, but at least it gives you like a couple extra few seconds to, right, you know what I mean? Man, she cooked. It's over.
It wasn't just one man in front of me anymore. It was now two.
Oh yeah, GG.
I'm guessing the other one had been waiting out of sight, but he was dressed essentially the same as the first.
Yeah, GG.
The hat and gloves weren't for the cold. They were to keep them from leaving forensic evidence behind. And now those snoods weren't just keeping their necks and chins warm, they were covering their faces up to the bridge of their noses. The second man closed the door behind him, carefully too, then once it was shut, they started screaming at me to get on the floor. I was so frightened that I didn't do as they told me at first, like I thought that they were going to do something to me. And so when they told me that they were going to rob the place and started asking where all the valuables were, it was like a switch flipped in my head, and I got down on my knees thinking, the sooner I just go with it, the sooner they'll leave. I'm still so ashamed of myself, but when the man who'd been holding the clipboard held his pen to my eye, he asked me where the valuables were, and I completely folded. The implication was obviously that if I didn't tell them, the guy was going to gouge my eye out and just blind me by thrusting the sharp metal tip into the socket.
I mean, you can't really blame her at this point. It's already over, right? What's the difference between them doing that and having a gun pointed to their head or like a knife to the neck? You know? Same, right? Would you fold in that situation? Probably, right? It's kind of a bit too late, isn't it? I mean, you could like, yeah, GG, right? GG. You could try. It's up to you.
It was frighteningly clever of them, really. To think the pen he was holding doubled as the weapon he used to threaten people. It worked too.
John Wick.
I told them that there was jewelry in the bedroom and iPads in the kids' rooms. My employers, both my landlady and my neighbor, both said that it was the right thing to do, and my safety was infinitely more important than anything material. But even today, it feels like a little betrayal that I'll never be able to take back.
Nah, but imagine if like these guys had a different intention. They weren't here for the home, they were here for her. You know what I mean? Like compared to the other story about kidnapping, bro, she could have turned into a human trafficked person too. if the guys were after her instead of the jewelry, right? Like, I mean, even if it's the landlady or the owner, it's kind of just like it is what it is, right? You can't blame. I mean, yeah, you can kind of blame her a tiny bit for like should have had like a door, a deadbolt, or something. But at the same time, if they really wanted to get in, like even imagine if she had a chain lock and a deadbolt, but they still managed to kick the door down, right? It's like it is what it is, right? GG. And she's lucky she didn't get human trafficked.
They took me with them when they went upstairs, confiscating my phone and making me sit in the bath when they realized that that was the only room that they didn't have a landline installed. They told me to stay put while they ransacked the master bedroom, stuffing everything they found into one of the kids' backpacks. It must have amounted to tens of thousands of pounds in jewelry and other trinkets because, like I said, I was working for some very wealthy people, even for London. But then once they were done taking everything of value that wasn't nailed down and could fit into a piece of carry-on, they started asking me where the safe was. Not like they were guessing there was a safe, but it was almost like they knew. There was a safe, of course, behind a painting in the office on the second floor. It was one of those spinning lock kinds, and I'm not sure what they're called actually, but while I knew it was there for having cleaned the place so often, I didn't know the combination, and really, why would I? But the men seemed to think that I knew, and no matter how much I protested, they wouldn't relent. Maybe they robbed a place where the housekeeper knew the safe code, or maybe they were just so blinded by greed that they didn't stop to reason. But no matter what I said, they refused to accept that I didn't know, and the more I protested, the angrier they got. After maybe a minute or two of me trying and failing to convince them otherwise, one of the men seemed to lose his temper. But instead of hitting me or whatever he would do, he stormed out of the room after saying that he had an idea. He came back less than a minute later after going up and down the stairs to the third floor and back again.
Third floor?
And in his hand, he held a cordless power drill.
What?
It had been sitting in the dad's office. I don't know what he'd been doing with it exactly, but now it was in the hands of that man. Then, not needing any clues whatsoever as to what he was planning on doing with it, my begging and pleading went into overdrive. I swore on my mom's life that I didn't know the combination and I was just the cleaner, and now I think that's the part that they just didn't believe. No matter how many times I said it, and honestly, I think it was into the triple figures by the time they left, it was like they just didn't hear me. The man activated the drill a few times, or fired it or whatever so it made noise, and then he put the tip of the drill right against my temple. He told me that he'd drill into my brain if I didn't tell him the safe combination. I wouldn't have been able to tell him if I did know, and I couldn't even speak by then as I was so scared. All I could do was sob and shake my head with my eyes closed, and I couldn't even bring myself to look. I didn't realize this at the time, but they were never going to kill me. That'd bring them too much trouble.
Yeah,
But they did torture me, just not in the Spanish Inquisition or Guantanamo Bay ways that we all picture when we hear the word. They just hit me again and again after taking the drill away from my head. And these days, I think that it might have just been out of frustration that I didn't know the code to a safe that, to be fair, was probably packed with all kinds of valuables. Because if they found all that jewelry just sitting out in the open, then what was in the safe? I later found out it was just stuff like passports and birth certificates, things the parents didn't want their two sons finding and drawing all over. The most valuable thing in there was an old brooch belonging to someone's mom, so even if I had given them the code...
Okay, if they're so wealthy, then they would have had like... Okay, now I'm kind of blaming the maid again, because if they're so wealthy, then they would have had like a... They would have had like a secure lock. You know what I mean? Right? You know what I mean? It's like, bro. Where's the image again? Oh, you can see on my screenshots. There's nothing of interest in the screenshots anyways. But look. Where's that screenshot? You're telling me that the rich family don't have something like this? Come on now. They would have... Of course they'd have something like that. Nah, still though.
They'd have...
They're here for the jewelry, not for human trafficking.
probably finished up hitting me all the same. I kept begging them to stop, saying that I was just the cleaner and I didn't know the code, until one of them suddenly said, "All right, enough." And then after that, it was like I didn't exist anymore. They did one last look around for anything that they could carry to their van, and then grabbed the bag with the jewelry in it and walked out of the house, all calm so as not to alert the neighbors. I kept telling myself to get out of the bath and call the police, but all I did was cry for a few minutes before I finally told myself, "All right, enough," and I found a phone to dial 999 with. Going through the actual burglary was easily the worst thing that's ever happened to me, but sometimes it's the aftermath that felt like it was worse. I know it's just the way my personality type deals with trauma, but I just wanted to forget about it and move on. And yet my injuries, the sleepless nights, and even the way that I felt going back to the house where it had happened, that made it all so much more difficult to deal with. I had to talk to the police a few times. I had to go back to the hospital to get a brain scan, and people kept asking me, "Are you okay?" even though they knew that I wasn't. Now I know in that case, well, all cases actually, it was just people trying to help me, but I felt like I was being forced to relive what I'd been through over and over again every time anyone asked about it. I just wanted to be distracted. I wanted to move on. And that's why my employer found it so weird when I insisted on coming back to work as soon as I could. A, because I needed the money, and B, because the more I did my job, the easier it'd be to just sort of not feel terrified all the time. The police didn't find who did it for a while, but about a year later, 2 men were arrested after committing an almost identical violent daytime burglary on a property just 10 minutes drive from the one that I was attacked at. I heard it from the news before I heard it from the police, but the day that that officer confirmed it for me was one of the happiest days of my entire life. Neither admitted to it and neither was charged with the crime, but they were convicted over that other burglary they did, and to me, I'll take any small justice available. Because the first night I spent knowing that they were in custody was the soundest I've slept in a long, long time.
Again, though, if you're rich enough to hire a maid, then you would be rich enough to have at least some sort of security, right? That's kind of dumb, though, no? Yeah, that's still kind of dumb. Who opens their door wide open like that to people? Especially if it's like you just don't open your door fully anyways. You just have a little gap because you don't know who's behind the door. You know? Or matter of fact, you have a compound of a gate. So therefore now you've got a second layer, and then they can't even they can't even knock at your front door. They have to look up at the camera at the gate and be like, "Huh? Hello? Can I come in?" And the camera's gonna look at it. "Who are you?" "Oh, I'm Joe." "Who?" "No. Get here." Right? That's why Sensei has a compound. Compound's just goated, right? Compound of a gate. Straight up, just perfect, no? I mean, look, they can still come get you, but it's still pretty hard. Even the police can't even get him. Because even if they climb over the compound, they still have to go through the main door. Alright? But then again, if someone wanted to get you, they'll get you regardless. It's not very hard. Someone really wanted to get you, they'll get you. So yeah, alright, that was pretty interesting. Now, let's have a little browse on YouTube real quick. What else is interesting around here? What? She doesn't exist anymore. Who? Never mind, I'm joking. What else is here? The edgy teen boys who decided to become serial killers. You know, they make serial killers sound like cereal, but it's only like 1 or 2. Also, by the way, that Steam game we played yesterday, well, not yesterday, but that horror game I played recently, when they depicted that guy, the murderer was like a serial killer. He only killed like 3 people, but a lot more of us. Is there anything else interesting? Is there anything else interesting? Do not take hitchhiker. Well, duh. That's literally just inviting a stranger. That's literally like, yo, picking up a hitchhiker is the same as picking up a brown grizzly bear, right? You don't know if it's gonna attack you or not, no matter how friendly it looks. even if it's like a female, good-looking hitchhiker, right? That's a trap. You don't know what's gonna happen. And at the same time, if you're trying to hitchhike, it's also a gamble. It's like it's a gamble for both ways, right? It just depends on the. Okay, when you're hitchhiking or picking up a hitchhiker, one, it depends on the context, where you live in, your scenarios, how far away you from civilization, etc., 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 right? It's like, for example, like the only time I would ever pick up someone is if I'm in like the city and it's like a grandma with a broken leg and she's bleeding everywhere and she's like, I need to go to the hospital, but okay, you know what, fine, I'll let you in, right? Like that just depends on the context of the scenario, right? Like if it's just in the city, busy traffic, so, like a grandma on the street, like dead pretty much, oh, I gotta help her, I gotta drive her to the hospital. But then if it's like, you know, Operation Twizel in the middle of nowhere, some random hot lady on the road, on the side of the road, nope, that's a trap right there. Ain't no way. Just drive past them straight up. Even if it looks like a broken, even if like their car's broken down and stuff, GG, it's not worth it. Dude, you could easily trap people. It's kind of easy. But I mean, again, most serial killers or most killer things can only happen once before they get caught. Especially in today's age. Especially in today's age. It's like a one thing only. That's why some of these horror stories, like, it can only happen once. But it's just, yeah. Is there anything else interesting? Skinwalkers, not real. What is Apashila? Everyone keeps talking about that in the YouTube. It's like some kind of forest. Ooh, disappearances that haunt me.
With Optima.
Ooh, I kind of want to look at that. All right, guys, we're gonna look at that tomorrow. Next time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate it. All right, see you guys. Bye bye.